Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the world. Today we've got Paul Alford of Advanced 7 and his team, Jonathan and Darren. And we're going to talk about some of the really cool stuff that TribeLab has. And so, Paul, take it away and thank you for being on today, gang.
Thanks very much, Tim. Good to be back on LMTV as always. We've been doing some work looking at, we're particularly interested in the growing tendency towards Internet of Things. If you believe the stats, there are going to be 20 billion connected devices within the IoT network by 2020. So 20 billion by 2020. Probably a good argument for IPv6, Tim, but we'll talk about that some other time. As part of this interest, we have added a new section to our TribeLab site called Internet of Things. And we've kicked off with an experiment on the connected vehicle, and in particular looking at a Tesla Model S and what you can do with that and the way you can connect. So let's bring in Darren at this point. Darren, tell us about the connectivity on the Tesla Model S.
Yes, certainly. What I'd like to do is just bring up a quick slide, if my screen share works.
You have to hold your mouth just right.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, one statistic I got the other day from one of my friends at Google, they estimate that about 25 to 40% of IoT devices out there today have no security capability whatsoever.
Wow. Okay.
And
that's
that
interesting.
Number will grow.
Amount.
That's scary, isn't it?
Mm. Okay, go on, Darren. Tell us about it.
Okay, so we were curious about how the Tesla communicates over the internet. So we had a little rummage around and we found that the Tesla actually uses an always-on connection to Tesla servers out in the internet. This allows the car to communicate with Tesla 24 hours a day, even when it's not being used. Now, it achieves this by using the 4G LTE mobile data network, which would indicate that the car is equipped with a mobile SIM or the ability to use the mobile data network. We had a little look into it and we found that this connection will allow you to access the internet, so you can access services like music, such as Spotify service, multimedia services and maps, which are further enhanced by the GPS ability of the car. This does mean, of course, anything you access to the internet does go via the Tesla servers, so they are watching you and they can see exactly what you're accessing. The always-on connectivity also allows the ability to use a Tesla app. Now, the Tesla app can communicate directly with the car via the Tesla servers, and that gives you the ability to get real-time data from the car, such as its charging ability, and to control things such as the horn, the lights, open the charging port. So controlling the horn and the lights is always a little bit of a positive. So if you're one of these kinds of people like me, who forget where you park your car, it's quite handy to have.
I think you're muted, Paul.
You're muted.
Sorry,
Paul.
I told them to be careful of muting, and then I go and fall foul of it myself. Yeah, sorry, I was saying, Jonathan, tell us about what we were trying to achieve with the experiment.
Okay, so one of the things we were setting out to do was, can we actually troubleshoot the connected car without any specialized equipment whatsoever? So, you know, components you might buy from Amazon, eBay, or your local thrift shop, whatever, you know, something you can find that you would have to hand and be able to connect to the car and actually troubleshoot it. Another thing we wanted to have a look at was actually how was the Tesla control app that Darren mentioned how was that actually coupled to the car? Was it a direct connection? Was it an indirect connection? What appeared to be in between the two devices? Were the two devices loosely coupled or not? Is it asynchronous activity? That sort of thing. And can you actually troubleshoot it yourself?
So can you show us something of the controls that you can do? I think you've got a screenshot for us, haven't you?
Yes, if you did bear with me one moment while I set up a quick screen share with you all.
Now, is the computer? It's an ARM architecture, right? In the Tesla.
We don't know. I don't think we know that, and we didn't explore that area of it. There are some reports online about people who have managed to root the console, the computer console, but we don't actually know what's in there. This was purely done from a network perspective at this stage. Of course, we're interested. We want to look further, but yeah. Go on, Jonathan. Tell us about this control.
Okay, so this is basically what you see when you start the Tesla control app on your car. Now, obviously, you have to be a Tesla owner. You have to have a login. Otherwise, that'd be pretty insecure. Nobody wants people honking their horn or opening their charge port while they're driving along. So obviously, this was all done with the owner's permission. It's a pretty simple app, as you can see. You've got a status. It means it's parked, it's unplugged, and this is all done, via an internet connection. I'll show you that in a second. We've got controls here where you can do the honk, horn, flashlights, etc. You can turn things like climate on or off. You've got charging controls. You can see the location and various other settings, and things like how many miles you've got left before you get to your car even. So it's quite a useful little app, and provides quite a bit of information for the user. Now, the way this is all connected, in our tests at least, was like this. So essentially you've got a laptop connected to a Samsung Galaxy S7 mobile phone for basically internet access. But then what we did was we shared the actual Wi-Fi connection on the laptop, and allowed that to be shared with a USB Ethernet port that was plugged in. Into that Ethernet port, we actually had a small portable USB powered wireless access point. And that was essentially how we connected to the car.
And this is basically to overcome the fact that we can't really get in the middle of the 4G LTE without specialist equipment. And
yeah, absolutely. There's no way for us to kind of bridge the gap between the LTE and the monitoring equipment we have to hand.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to circumvent that by allowing the car to connect to Wi-Fi, but still have an internet connection. And we did it in a kind of a man-in-the-middle style here.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, I've actually got a photograph of the kit that we used as well.
Yeah.
So nothing terribly surprising. You've got a normal laptop, a normal mobile phone. This is just a USB-C type adapter. It provides USB connectivity, HDMI out, Ethernet, the standard sort of thing you get these days with one of these little kind of hub type adapters, and a little tiny palm of your hand sized wireless network adapter. And that is literally all it is. Okay,
so let's take a look. One thing we can do is, if I share my screen, we can take a look at the actual the way that the connectivity works. Whoops, sorry, it's just my video is running away with me. So let's just share the screen. So as Jonathan was saying, we used Jonathan and Darren used Wi-Fi. So rather than use the standard connection between the car and the cloud, what they did was they chose the option to connect to the cloud via Wi-Fi. So what I'm going to show is actually what happens when you do that. So let's see if we can view that. Okay, so here's the car we used for the testing, and we'll get in that and have a look at the console. Okay, here we are inside the car. The sensor console is currently showing the radio. So, John, show us some of the internet connectivity that we have. So we've got websites. Yeah, switch that into Love My Tool or something. Okay, quite a content-rich page. We haven't got perfect 4G connectivity. What about the maps, Google Maps, John? Okay, yeah, you see Google Maps is working, and Spotify. Let's have a look at that. Okay, and there you see the Spotify account. All right, John, where's the LTE, the 4G LTE identifier? Something.
So up here,
yeah,
just along the top,
yeah,
you can see it actually says LTE at the moment.
okay, can we switch it into Wi-Fi?
There you go. I'm just going to pair up the Wi-Fi device.
Okay, so we've plugged in the little Wi-Fi adapter, and what we found earlier when we were just doing this testing for this video is that it switched automatically into Wi-Fi, whereas before we had to actually connect it to a hotspot. Maybe pull down the hotspot list, John, and try and connect it up. Okay, that looks good. Let's just try another website just to make sure we've got connectivity through the Wi-Fi. Okay, now this time the website's loading via Wi-Fi instead of through the LTE, 4G LTE connection. Okay, so hopefully that showed okay.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, so you get the idea about what we did, and that shows just the standard connectivity, internet connectivity from within the car, and then Darren and Jonathan did the testing with the app. But one of the things we found there were some problems, weren't there, Darren, when we first tried to connect the car up to the Wi-Fi? What were the issues we had?
Yeah, so like most companies, we have Wi-Fi access points within our office. Unfortunately, because of the location of our office and the building we're in, which is clad in metal, and the windows are metalized, we actually had quite an issue trying to actually get a connection to our Wi-Fi access points. So this is when John came up with the idea of using a USB wireless access point connected to a laptop, which proved to work very well.
And we also tried a notebook solution, didn't we? What happened with that one?
Yes, we did. We used a notebook and enabled Wi-Fi sharing, so internet sharing on the notebook. But the car wouldn't actually detect or connect to the Wi-Fi from the laptop. So that would indicate either some kind of security or ability that's checking what it's connecting to.
Even though you were able to get phones and things to connect to that hotspot, weren't you, on the notebook?
Yes, indeed. I mean, we verified that it was working properly. So really, the fact that the car wouldn't connect to it would indicate that it has some kind of security built into it perhaps to try and prevent hacking.
Okay, I guess so. Don't know.
Yeah,
all right then.
What would happen, Paul, if you shut down all connection to your car? You shut down Wi-Fi and cell and everything. Do you know?
It doesn't prevent you from driving the car. In fact, you can reboot the car while you're driving it, and I did, and you know, it doesn't have any effect. It's purely for entertainment and I guess telemetry and everything else. Yeah, it doesn't directly seem to control the car, although Jonathan, you know something about something called deep reset. What's that all about?
Yeah, I did a bit of digging, and obviously, as you said, you know, things, for example, like Spotify, etc., your web access. If you shut down the wireless connection, the LTE, you'd lose services like that, lose services to do with traffic updates, etc. But digging deeper into kind of what the actual consoles on the car do, we found that there's options for different levels of reset. So, for example, as Paul said, the center console can be reset, and actually it has no effect on driving. Also, the driver's console, essentially the instrument binnacle that's in front of the steering wheel, that can actually also be reset on the move as well. Obviously, there are snags with that in that you basically lose the speed readout and other useful driving information while that is resetting. But again, it has no immediate effect on the car other than that loss of information. However, obviously, there may be times where the car is, say, it's had a problem with a software update, etc. You can actually do what Tesla call a deep reset, and it's quite a complex situation. You've got to press a number of buttons all at the same time. You've got to have your foot on the brake. The car's got to be stationary, and that will essentially actually do a kind of full reset of not just the instrument binnacle and the center console, but all of the car's underlying systems as well. And the way it seems to have been designed is that can't actually be done whilst the car is in motion, because you've got to have your foot on the brake or have the handbrake on at the same time.
Wow. Because I know we've hacked the controller area network before in vehicles. I won't tell you which one, but we've done it here. And once you do that, though, now you have control of the vehicle. But it looks like that Tesla has, because I know that Tesla has recently signed a contract with a company, and I'm trying to see if I can remember the name, and I have it written down. It's called Pegatron, Pegatron, to build their main computer board.
Okay.
And I don't know when that switched, because they used to use another one, and I don't know the name of them. They were started with a K, I think, or something like that. And the reason I know some of this, Paul, is because I've been working with law enforcement on the information available on car computers in events, so we can kind of backward engineer where they were, when they were. We can prove it in a number of different ways. But the ultimate goal, of course, is that if you're a bad guy and you're running from me, I can push 5 buttons or whatever, and your car goes stops.
Yeah.
That would be an ultimate. I don't think that's going to happen, because in the class that we were in, there was 87 different computer types, and literally every one of them had a different method of access. And then, of course, you have 5G, and you have 4.5G, and you have 4.6G, and all these other new communication methods. But this is really interesting. Did you actually capture packets?
Yeah, we did. We'll tell you a bit about that. So, Jonathan, tell us what you found.
Okay, so what we set out to do was 3 kind of very basic tests to see what we could see. One test was turn the climate control on and off. The other was to open and close the charge port, and the other was to honk the horn. So what we did is we connected up our laptop to the car, and if I just share my screen again, you can see the way it was actually kind of logically connected. Okay, you should be able to see that screen now. And this is kind of the logical connections that we could see. So if you look at the car side of things, you can see we've got the blue and green data flow arrows, and they're essentially the car talking across the internet. And as we discovered, actually, it's a VPN. The car uses OpenVPN, and it has a continual, always-on VPN connection through to the Tesla cloud services. Now, if we just move over to the sort of center here, around the laptop, this is where we had the Tesla Control app installed. And we did a packet capture at this interface here, so the laptop Wi-Fi, but we also did it here at the USB Ethernet adapter. So we could see pure car traffic, and we could see the car traffic plus the app traffic. What was clear is that the app was talking on HTTPS, so we couldn't see inside. We couldn't see what were the commands that were actually being sent. We knew what they were, but there's no way of actually identifying what was actually being sent. We do know that the app itself uses an API that uses basically JSON requests, and they are not directly connected in any way to the car. So you'll send, say, your turn climate on command, you'll see a connection through. That'll go from the laptop through to the Tesla cloud services. You'll see some activity. What I did notice when I was looking at the traces is that there was a slight delay between sending the command and the car actually responding. And you could see some delays actually with the open VPN traffic. So say it took 3 seconds, you could see that it actually took, there was a 3-second delay in the open VPN traffic. But again, we couldn't see the actual command as it came through. We could see something was happening with the open VPN, but other than that, nothing at all.
So the sort of inference there is that when you send the command from the control app, it goes into the cloud. It probably goes through proxies and gateway services, then goes to the car. The car then responds, and then your response comes back from the cloud back to your app. I think that's what we were saying, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you send your command, that heads off up to Tesla. That sends a command back down to the car across the always-on VPN. Car says, I've done this. The response goes back, and then it shows up as done on your Tesla control app. So yeah, if you're going to honk the horn, obviously you'll know that's done. But if you're going to do something like turn the climate on in the Tesla control app, that will then respond and say climate on or charge port open.
Yeah. Okay. You spotted some other traffic, didn't you? What was the other stuff?
Yes. So what was quite interesting was we could see some actual traffic that was on plain HTTP, and actually it turned out to be traffic that, I say traffic, actual traffic information. Yeah. So TMC information that was providing details on roadblocks, roadworks, delays, etc. And if you could actually see the plain URL within the network traces, and when you plot that into the driver, into a browser, it would actually bring you back a whole list of all of these roadworks, etc. and delays. And also one of the other pieces that came back, there was kind of in tandem with that, there was a kind of a smaller version of that, which kind of said there's delays here, and kind of gave a rough idea of what the traffic delays were in the other roads where there weren't roadworks.
Okay.
Cool.
So that sounds interesting.
Yeah, there was also some other stuff as well in terms of, we saw network time protocol. And also I did a little trace earlier where after we did that video, and I did actually see some of radio traffic. So for your radio app, Paul, there was actually a connection made to that as it flipped over from LTE to wireless.
Okay. So I guess just to further answer the question that Tim asked, did you do the packet traces? So we've done a white paper. Jonathan's done a white paper which is available on the TribeLab site under the Internet of Things section. And that's got a lot more information about how Darren and Jonathan did this, how they set it up, and also an overview of the traffic. But I think what we want to do is we're going to do a more detailed study of the traffic and present that in a separate paper. And Tim, we'd love to come back and share that with you on another date.
Well, make sure you link that paper, any papers that you want on Love My Tool.
Okay.
Because this is becoming a hot subject. They're beginning to hold classes and teach automobile analyst, and of course that's a real challenge because they're all different types and that. But this is our world we're living in. I mean,
yeah.
Ultimately, I drive an old car and I only have 2 computers in my car. But my buddy bought a brand new car and he has 19. Okay, and they'll, and I know Tesla's got a bunch of different levels of computing going on.
Yeah.
And so it's security is becoming a major issue.
Of course.
And Tesla was the first vendor to put in an IoT security measure or measures. And of course, thanks to the Japanese or the Chinese hackers, they learned a lot more and they've really upgraded that protection. But about 80% or 90% of IoT devices have no security.
Yeah. So one thing, Tim, you're really low in the mix on your audio, but we did hear what you said.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. One of the things that surprised us and actually we thought was quite clever was the use of a VPN in the way they use it, because before we did this, we were thinking, well, does the, if you're going to send commands, if the cloud service is going to take the role of the application client, and then it's going to talk to a service on the in the car, how's that going to go through firewalls that are bound to be along the path from the cloud service through to the car, because you're sort of going in the reverse direction.
Right.
So then we thought, well, maybe what happens is the car connects to Tesla services and then does long polling or something to pick the messages off the commands off a message queue. Didn't even think about the fact they might do it with a VPN, which gives them a great bidirectional, mechanism for communication and overcomes all of the issues that we could see they might face.
Plus, you verify that it's two-way. It says honk the horn. Okay, I honked the horn. Okay, I understand you honked the horn.
Yeah,
that's a real important step.
It does seem to be, judging by the pattern of the traffic and the timings and everything that we glean from the traces, it does seem that the car and the application are loosely coupled. As I said, it's not a direct, and as Jonathan pointed out, it's not a direct connection. It definitely is going to go through proxies and maybe even gateway services, but there is, a request goes to the car through all that tortuous route, reaches the car, and then the response comes back, and that definitely seems to be the way it's working. So, yeah.
Pretty cool.
Okay. Well, we're right out of time. So,
this is awesome. Sands did a paper not too long ago about hacking the CAN, the Computer Automated Network, and but as you're pointing out, there's so many different levels now, and the technology to do what you did is not going to happen by everybody. It's not something that you pull out of your back pocket.
Yeah.
Fantastic job, guys. This is a great. Please keep up this and give us.
Thank you.
Because we don't give any of the bad guys information to hack Tesla.
Yeah, no. Well, that was we thought about that when we set out on this, but quite honestly, I'm sure Tesla are not relying on somebody not noticing. If their security policy is let's keep our heads down and hope nobody notices, I don't think that's much of a policy, and I'm pretty sure that's not the situation.
No, trust me, Tesla is one of the most aggressive companies in following the dark web hacker communications.
Yeah,
and they actually, as a general rule, work with European law enforcement.
Yeah,
quite heavily.
Yeah, sure.
So,
okay, I can only echo.
Job, guys.
Yeah, I can only echo what Tim said. Great job, guys. You did. That was really good. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching this week, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Love My Tool.
And before